Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Annie Riley, award-winning author, developer of the Ideasphere theory. Welcome to the show, Annie.
Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to be here.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show, Annie. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to learn today. We'll understand from you about nature's blueprint for human society. So we'll learn about all this. But first, let's understand a bit more about you, about your journey, about your background, so that the audience knows who they are listening to.
Right. Well, thank you for having me again. I live in the United States. I'm the 11th of 12 children, which totally informed my sort of whole life of thinking. I learned about 10 years old about the theory of evolution. And from that moment on, I was absolutely trying to figure out how humans fit in the world. We seem so much like animals, but we also seem very different. And so I spent my life trying to figure out um, this answer. But I was a kid in America in the 60s. I grew up. I played sports. I married my high school sweetheart. I had a job. I got a degree in accounting and economics. And I'm like, I just thought about this, but I didn't really know how to figure it out. But every time I read more and more, I started throwing out ideas that didn't work and keeping the ideas that did work. And I got enamored with Charles Darwin and Stephen Jay Gould and an author called Michael Rothschild. And over the years, it finally dawned on me how how humans fit in the world. And so that's when I wrote my book. So it's really 50 years in the making.
Really 50 years in the making. And I want to understand, you have experience, you are very educated, MBA, and so many things you have done, experience in multiple industries.
Yes.
Good life,
Yes.
you could be very happy with the life that you have. Why worry about human species? Why worry about humanity? Why worry about the future of of humanity? Help us understand about this whole understanding of yours.
That is such a good question, because I thought I should be happy, but when I learned about economics, and supply and demand and how it all made such perfect sense. And I have a very logical mind. It's just, I was like, but people don't work this way, to a certain extent. And when I finished my MBA and I was working in the high tech industry, I was distinctly unsatisfied at the work. And it really, what I discovered was that what drove me wasn't the things that all these people had told me that I should do. I should amass resources. I should, become the head of a company. I should do this. I should do that. None of that was satisfying to me. And so I ended up having to go on my own journey to figure out what my own values were and what satisfied me. And that was sort of a trigger about helping me understand the Ideasphere, because in nature, animals don't think about their goals. They don't have to. They have one goal, and that is survival. And particularly cells all collaborate together to keep each other alive in a body, and to keep the body alive. But
Right.
I don't do that. I'm not born with any ideas. I have to develop my own values and my own goals in order to figure out how to live a satisfying life for me. That's what makes humans different than all other animals, is we have to create our own values. We have to decide what's important and then live our life accordingly. Animals don't have to do that. But I found that I kept being like, I was still looking. And this question was at the core of what I was looking for. And the fact that I have answered it has made all the difference in my satisfaction in life.
Absolutely. Absolutely has made a difference to your life. You have been on a lifelong quest to understand how
Yes.
humans logically fit into life's panorama. So let's understand this from this point of view, and it is that how do we fit? Why is it because we think we fit? See, for example, Homo sapiens are there, Homo erectus is not there, and nobody bothers. Homo sapiens do not bother about Homo erectus. They are gone. Is nature bothered about? Is nature also bothered about so many species that are gone? So, how as humans should we define ourselves about our fitment into this whole knives panorama? Us, or is it about only about us that we think we are important? For nature, we are just one more species in this whole scheme of things.
Well, yes and no. The answer, of course, is complicated. But we are of animals. We are evolved from all of this panorama of life that you have discussed. But we are also distinctly different. And two things make us different. One is our ability to think and create ideas, which is what I have, deemed the human ecosystem and the ideasphere, and the ability also to take those ideas and store them in information in physical representations outside our body. Now, we are the only species that can do this. For instance, we can write a book, or we can make a building, or we can make a spaceship. Those all are physical representations of the ideas that went into making them. Animals cannot do this except on a very limited basis. A bird can build a nest. A bee can build a hive, but they can't build a 3-story concrete structure that allows them to have generations of bees live there. They can't do that. They are only evolved to do the things that they can do. We've disconnected the rules by being able to think and store information outside our bodies. So we've accelerated information in a way, and the information that exists on this earth in a way that's dramatic. Think about how humans started with speaking, and then they learned to write, and then they learned to make books, and then they learned to um, uh, make radio and television, and now computers and satellites. I mean, we've just accelerated information beyond belief. Whereas for billions of years, birds built nests and bees built hives, and everything kind of worked because everything was stable. And then humans have come along and just disconnected this world. And what I'm saying is that now humans, we have done this so well, or so haphazardly, that we are now on the cusp of self-extinction. We are also the only animals that can self-destroy. And it is a very dangerous situation that we're in right now, because we are in danger of killing the earth that we live on. And if we do so, it will be humans that and the human ideas that go away. Animals will survive, something will survive, but it may not be humans. And so what I want to do is look back on how animals survive more, and how they've survived successfully for millions and billions of years, and see if we can use those lessons, adjust them for the ability of humans to think and store information outside our brains, and see if we can come up with better societies. That's what the book is about. And we know all this information. We know how animals work. We know how cells collaborate. We know how brains coordinate. We just can't, we have to apply those lessons. And at the base of those lessons is one simple sentence. For humans, it is that you should be able to do whatever you want. In other words, implement whatever ideas you want to implement, but you can never harm another person or your environment in which you live. If we did that and redesigned our systems with this in mind, we would make better societies. That's the point of my book.
Absolutely. And that is where we come to your book, The Human Idea. Tell us about it. It's a nice name. How did this name come? How did this idea of the human idea come to your mind? What does it mean? Who is this book? For those who are destroying, or those who are saving our only planet, lonely planet? As Carl Sagan said, suspended in a sunbeam.
Well, it's a really good question, because I when I started, I had all these ideas about how non-humans worked, but I couldn't quite figure out how humans worked. And I kept getting up to every time we I got to the point of humans and I could look at the structure. So if you look at life as a structure, it's a set of concentric circles. We start at the middle with DNA. DNA is our instruction set in our cells, right? Every cell in our body has the same set of instructions. So we all work together to keep our body alive. And then inside that cells then accumulate to make tissues and organs and finally a body. Well, I kept getting stuck. I was like, well, humans just operate differently. But I did the old trick that Einstein did when he was figuring out the theory of relativity, which was, you know, the systems have to work the same way. We're all evolved the same way. So let's assume that humans work the same way as nature does, but we work from a different starting point. And so instead of at the center of life being DNA, the center of the human ecosystem is the idea. And from the idea, it's housed in our brains, which are housed in people who implement the idea. Just like the cells, all the parts of the cell implement the instructions from the DNA. All the parts of the human body implement our ideas. We use our hands to build machines, or our hands and paper to write books, whatever. And then from there, we group together to make institutions, and we group together to make societies. So the levels are parallel. And so once I had that, then I was able to distinguish how humans break the rules of human living and how we've kind of gone off course. Because the cells survive because they implement those rules very carefully. And if you don't implement the rules, those guys who all didn't implement the rules properly are dead, right? And the cells that we see today are very good implementers of these rules to make sure they survive. We have broken the rules because we can think, and we're going to be like, we don't have to do that. And so we can choose to accept a bad idea and implement a bad idea for millennia if we want. And that's what we've done. We've implemented ideas like war, or even some, you could say, religion has been the source of a lot of conflict. And because everybody has a different idea of religion, and then we all fight over who's right. And it's like, but you all got religion. You all have your own religion that you like. Why do you need to fight over it? But these are ideas that we've developed, and then they don't always turn out very well. And so if we go back and look at how animals implement these ideas, we might do a better job.
Absolutely. So what is in your book? Well, and can you tell in terms of chapter wise that, okay, this is it. And who are these things for? Who can learn from that book? What can they learn from your book? And you talk about Ideasphere. Explain, help us understand the concept of Ideasphere also.
Right. The Ideasphere is what I call the human ecosystem. It is the sum total of all the ideas that we have created on our history as humans, plus all the products we've created. So if you look around everywhere, that anything that's man-made, it's storing our ideas, plus all the ideas that we have in our heads. And an idea is just that it works a little bit differently than DNA. In order to have an idea be existing in the Ideasphere, it needs to be accepted. It doesn't have to be good or bad or fit in the environment. It just has to be accepted. If I want to say 2 + 2 = 5, and I can get everybody to accept that, then I have an idea that's out there. But a lot of people are going to say, hey, sorry, 2 + 2 = 4, and I can't build a building if I say 2 + 2 = 5 because it's going to fall down. But if I say 2 + 2 = 4, then people rely on that, and that's an accepted idea. Today we suffer a lot from disinformation, where people are saying, black is white and white is black, and it's not true. And we have this ability for people to accept an idea that is not true and say, I don't care if it's true. If it's not true, I'm just going to believe it anyway. And this is one of the dangers we have today with so much information, and people can choose what information they have. And we don't have a good vehicle right now to sort out what is true and what is false and let people know that. And this is one of the reasons why I think we're going headlong into sort of self-destruction.
Right, right, Annie. So your idea sphere with all the information, how is it different than any chat GPT or Claude or Perplexity or so many other, AI engines
Oh,
out there? Help us understand.
right. Right. Well, one of the funny things is that, when I put through Chat GPT and some of these perplexities, I put through and said, "Tell me about the human ecosystem." And they gave me the standard, well, it's a mix of humans and culture and this and that and the other thing. And what I've done is I have a very it's an approach based on science. And it says, look, you don't have to accept my ideas, but I'm just telling you how nature works and how successful nature is. And if we take those ideas, adjust them for the ability of humans to choose and think, then we can come up with better ideas. For instance, I use social media as an example. So we have a lot of a problem with social media. And if the way social media works, of course, is that everybody just can post whatever they want and there's no check on it, it's not true. Well, in nature, false stuff doesn't get out there. First of all, the cells control, the brain is the coordinating system of your body, and your brain, every cell reports up to the brain and says, this is what I'm doing. And then the brain comes down and says, okay, here's how you're going to respond. And now, of course, we're not cells. We have choice. So it's going to look different. But when people post, what the cells would do is they would say, well, is this true? And if it's not true, they'll say, go back. And if you can't tell me something true, then at least tell me it's not true. So, what I think that people should be required to do when they post on social media is say, this is true or this is an opinion, and leave it. And everybody has to self report. And the regulation is that if people don't report properly, they need to be, they get a warning or they get taken down. Or if people, like, let's say somebody says, Barack Obama was the president, and somebody says that's not true, then you can say, no, you're disputing incorrectly. And what you do is you get a situation where you read a post and you get the person who's posting saying, yeah, this is just my opinion. Or this is really true because I found it you know, in three sources or something. And yeah, what it does is nature has this built-in accountability. We don't have it. We try to avoid accountability whenever possible. So what we have to do is implement systems that allow for more accountability.
That allows for more accountability. Now, which is the biggest threat for humanity? Is it the AI? Earlier we used to talk about nuclear weapons, or is it going to be that we will become a much more dumber species, and that itself will lead to our extinction, or is it going to be some asteroid who will take the credit?
I don't know. But and unfortunately with humans, there's so many choices. This is really, really bad. I think uh, climate change I think, will literally make our planet uninhabitable for many people. And I think as we keep experiencing it, I think many people will die and they will be displaced, and it will cause a lot of um, dissension in places. So I think that will do it. I think there is always a possibility of nuclear annihilation. Although I'm hoping that people are smart enough to realize that that's a really bad idea. But we've taken on bad ideas before and lived with them for a long time. AI is a more different thing. I think that AI may end up being the next life form, in the way that you know humans humans are different. The way the progression has gone is the universe started with matter and energy, and those are inert, right? They don't need resources to survive. They just are things. They're just
Right.
things. But when people, human, or I should say life, came along, life created this ability to live and die, and you need resources in order to keep living. So that's something new. Something has to eat resources, and that's caused, competition and collaboration and all these different ways to figure out how to get resources so you don't die. And then humans have come along and said, well, we have an even higher plane of living because we can get our resources by thinking and implementing those thoughts into ideas and then getting resources from those ideas. So we sell products and we sell books and we do all these things so that we can get resources and survive. Now, AI is the next generation where it doesn't need resources anymore, except the resources to exist data um, as a data holder, you know. And if AI can figure out how to self survive without needing resources in in a way, then that becomes a new life form. You know, if it can copy itself, it can be protected from its environment, and it can consume or take the resources in that it needs, it will turn into another life form. And it's not there yet. It's pretty amazing. I mean, I've been shocked at what Perplexity can do, or and just what AI can do in general. But to get to that new form, AI is going to have to figure out the way to exist without resources, or with the ability to get its own resources. And once it does that, it's its own life form. And that's ecosystem 3. That's a new ecosystem that we created but can't control. Just like life created humans. I mean, and we are not, they are not in control of us. We are in control of them to some extent.
Right, right, Annie. And that, so your book is coming out in November, in 20 days.
Yes.
Tell us when exactly is it coming?
It's coming out November 19th, and it will be on all the platforms. You can buy it in the bookstores. And I think it's available for libraries to purchase. So if you really are interested and you want your library to purchase it, just go to your librarian and say, buy this book. It's great, but it's also on Amazon, so you can always find it there, but it's on all the platforms. So, I'm excited, but mostly I'm excited that it's got a lot of science. It's kind of divided into 3 parts. The first part is all like how life works. The second part is how humans work, and I've kind of messed up the whole life rules. And then the third part is, what would it look like if we actually lived according to the rules of life, but adjusted for human thought and the human capabilities of choice. But I hopefully have made the science accessible. It's very general. It's not a science book. It's made for any person who wants to kind of understand this concept and to understand the world in which we live. I made it as, Albert Einstein said, once, make things as simple as possible, but never simpler. And I think that's what I try to do. Sometimes you just have to talk about DNA and RNA, but I've made it as accessible as possible.
Absolutely. And you talk about, creating better societies. So today we are where we are. How do we do that? You also talk about that everyone have this big gift that they get. Your big gift is to see the big picture. What is the big picture that you want humanity to see, humans to see from where they are at the moment? And second thing is that, what is this whole concept about better societies? Which is the society till now in our journey as humans, which was an ideal one, which we should replicate? Because every time we are talking about going to the other species, the natural species, the animals, the plants, or whatever it is, why not any humans? And so that is where it brings to, what is the prototype of a better society?
Right. Well, I think the prototype for a better society is the one that we can find in nature. And I will say, I hate the word better because it implies a quality judgment. And the nature doesn't have a quality judgment. Nature is very practical. It says, if you look, your body is made with 35 trillion cells. That's a lot of cells. And they all work together to coordinate, or to keep you alive and to keep each other alive. And that's the model for societies. And so when I look at an ideal society, it's a pragmatic one. It says at the base of every society is this one concept, just like it's not survival for, like, in animals, we call it survival, but really it is for the collaborative entities. It's, hey, we take care of each other and we take care of our society. That's what we do. And it's not out of the goodness of our hearts, it's out of pragmatism. That's how we all survive. And that's the mindset that humans need to be, is we don't have to love each other. I love that we could. I mean, I'd love it if we did, but we don't. But what we have to do is not harm each other. We have to accept each other as we are and not harm each other. And if we all lived that way and made decisions that way, imagine how much better the world would be. And I use an example of pollution. Like, for instance, the way a body works is a cell discloses up to the brain. It says, hey, this is my status. And let's say you cut your finger. The brain goes, oh my gosh, we have a cut finger down on, the right hand. Let's go. And they send down their phagocytes and they send down their things and they repair that finger and they put a scar on it. And pretty soon it's all healed up, right? That's what the body does to protect itself. Well, what if we did that with humans? When we noted, let's say we have a disclosure rule just like that says, whenever we have a big problem that we think is going to be a problem for harming humans, let's have everybody disclose where they are on this. So all the businesses would have to say, here's what I pollute. Here's how much stuff I pollute. Here's where I put it. I put it in the water. I put it in the air. I do all these things. And then the government, who is the coordinating function, just like a brain is a coordinating function, doesn't go back and say, you bad business, you are harming people. They go in and say, how can we help? Let's provide this. Let's provide these kinds of experts. Let's provide this kind of thing. And the result is that we get cleaner water and we get a better corporate citizen. That's the way the body works. Why wouldn't we work? Instead, what we do is we say, we're going to audit. You guys don't do this. Don't pollute. And then the business is busy trying to hide that they're polluting. And then the company comes and says, well, we're going to go after you. And they spend all their money going after and auditing and then taking them to court and making them pay. And the water's still dirty, So if you want to keep your society running better, you have to make better systematic decisions. And you can use the body as a model for how to make better systematic decisions. Oops, I just lost my iPad. Just a second. I must be shaking my head too much. I lost my earbud. Sorry about that.
Not all those great ideas, great thoughts, and I'm sure a lot of great minds are working on this, including yours. And I'm sure humanity will survive at least till the time it finds a bigger reason to extinguish itself or whatever it is. Be that as it may, there is so much to learn about these things from you, Annie, about not only the upcoming book but several other books that you have written. So many things. So for those people who want to learn more about you, from you, want to get hold of your upcoming book, what's the best way for them to do so?
I have a website called thehumanidea.com. That is that's probably the best place. There's a survey on there. I'm really looking for people to kind of tell me what they think about humanity and what our future looks like. So there's a survey there, and you can give me your email and I'll keep you updated. I also have a YouTube channel where I'm going through in a little bit more detail the whole the concepts in the Ideasphere, so you can look at those. And you can find me on Amazon. I have an author page, but and I've written books about happiness, which is basically talking about goals. And I wrote a kind of a romantic suspense story, which really talked about my views on profit maximization in business, and then I wrote a fictional version of the Ideasphere theory. It's just because it was fun. And I enjoyed it. But really what I want people to do is, if they take this idea that you can do what you want as long as you don't harm anybody else, you can live your life personally this way. And it is a wonderful way to live. It frees you up from a lot of worry. You can just look at things and say, oh, that person's not hurting anybody. they're okay. And not only that, but you can say, I'm not hurting anybody. I can go ahead and do what I'm doing. And these kinds of things free you up from a lot of the noise that exists in our world today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.